In the small, sleepy town of Maplewood, where everyone knew everyone, there lived a woman named Sarah Thompson. She wasn't rich. She didn't own much. But what she did have was a heart big enough to warm the whole town. Every morning before sunrise, Sarah walked to the Maple Diner, her second home, the place where she worked as a cleaner for the last 8 years. The floor always sparkled when Sarah was done. She made sure the coffee pots were full, the chairs neatly tucked in, and the windows shining bright. Not because anyone told her to, but because she believed, every place deserves a little love, even if it's not yours. The regular customers often passed her by without a glance. To most people, Sarah was just that poor lady who always looked tired but smiled anyway. They didn't see the woman who'd spend her own tip money to buy breakfast for a homeless man sitting outside. Or the way she'd quietly refill coffee cups for strangers who couldn't afford a refill. Her teenage son, Eli, noticed though. He'd often wait for her after work, watching her slip a warm sandwich into a paper bag for someone who hadn't eaten all day. One evening he asked, "Mom, why do you keep helping people who don't even say thank you?" Sarah smiled that tired but genuine smile, the kind that came from the heart. Kindness isn't about being seen, Eli. It's about doing what's right, even when no one notices. And though Eli didn't fully understand it then, those words would echo in his heart forever. But as the days went on, Sarah's body began to show the weight of her struggles. Long hours, skipped meals, constant exhaustion. She'd cough behind the counter, hold her side in pain, but when customers looked her way, she'd straighten up and smile, pretending everything was fine. Because in Sarah's world, everyone else came first. And soon her kindness would cost her more than anyone could have imagined. But what happens when the woman who cared for everyone suddenly needs someone to care for her? It was a cold Thursday evening when Sarah finished her shift. Her hands trembled as she wiped down the last table, her reflection faint in the glass window. She looked weaker than usual, her once bright eyes now dull from fatigue. As she stepped outside, the streetlights flickered against the falling rain. She reached into her coat pocket for her bus card, but her hands were shaking. A sharp pain shot through her chest, and before she could call for help, she collapsed right there, by the curb. The diner manager, Tom, saw her through the window and rushed out. "Sarah, you okay?" he asked, patting her shoulder. She nodded weakly. "I'm fine, Tom. Just tired, really tired." He sighed. "You've been working too hard. Take the weekend off, all right?" And just like that, he helped her into a cab and sent her home. No doctor. No checkup. Just a pat on the back and good intentions. The next morning, Sarah didn't show up for work. One day passed. Then 2. Then 5. Tom assumed she'd quit. The neighbors noticed the lights in her apartment never turned on, but no one knocked on her door. Everyone thought someone else would check on her. And poor Eli, her 15-year-old son, struggled to manage alone. He made toast for dinner, went to school with wrinkled clothes, and prayed his mom would wake up and walk out of her room like she always did. But the silence grew louder with each passing day. Until one afternoon, a knock came at the door, the landlord, holding a bright orange eviction notice. Eli opened the door, his voice trembling. "Sir, my mom's not feeling well. Please, she just needs time." The landlord shook his head. "Sorry, could rent's due." As the man walked away, Eli stared at the paper in his hand, feeling the walls closing in. He had no idea his whole world was about to change. Because just 1 week later, the town that ignored Sarah's kindness would face a wake-up call they'd never forget. A week later, Maplewood woke to heartbreaking news. Sarah Thompson had passed away quietly in her sleep. Malnourished. Exhausted. Alone. When the local paper published her obituary, the town froze. The woman they all passed by every day was gone. At the small community church, a few dozen people gathered for her funeral. The pews were filled with familiar faces, the diner staff, the neighbors, even Tom, her manager, who couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Guilt hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Eli stood at the front, holding a crumpled piece of paper, his eulogy. His hands shook as he looked out at the crowd. "My mom," he began softly, "wasn't just a cleaner. She was the kindest person I ever knew." He swallowed hard, his voice breaking. She gave away her food, her money, her time, not because she had a lot, but because she believed kindness could still change hearts. He looked around the silent room. And you know what hurts the most? She believed this town had good people in it. People who'd help if only they noticed. The room was still. No one moved. No one spoke. Tears streamed down the faces of people who realized they'd taken her for granted. After the service, Tom walked out of the church with a heavy heart. He couldn't shake the thought, how could someone so good die so unseen? But the story wasn't over yet. Because soon, Sarah would teach the town one last lesson even from beyond the grave. Coming up next, the aftermath of her absence. A few days after the funeral, Tom returned to the diner to close up for the night. He walked past Sarah's old locker, the one she'd neatly labeled with her name. Something inside him told him to open it. When he did, he found a small, worn-out journal wrapped with a faded blue ribbon. He sat down and slowly opened it. Inside, he found dozens of handwritten notes, small acts of love recorded in Sarah's gentle handwriting. Coffee for Tom, he lost his wife. Groceries for Mrs. Dillard, she's too proud to ask. Pray for kindness to grow here. Every page revealed how deeply Sarah had cared for the very people who'd barely noticed her. Tom's hands trembled as he turned the last page. At the bottom, she'd written one final line. If kindness dies with me, then all this was for nothing. He closed the book, eyes filled with tears. The next morning, Tom gathered the entire diner staff and told them about Sarah's journal. By that afternoon, they had a new idea. They renamed the diner Sarah's Place. And beneath the sign, they added a small plaque that read, "A place built on kindness." Customers began to change too. They started a pay-it-forward program, buying meals for strangers, donating food to those in need, leaving bigger tips for the staff. For the first time, Maplewood felt alive again, like Sarah's kindness had never truly left. But even then, there was one more story waiting to be told, a son's final goodbye, and a legacy that refused to fade. The legacy of a forgotten angel. Months passed, and the town of Maplewood had changed in ways no one expected. Where there was once silence and indifference, there was now laughter, warmth, and compassion. At the heart of it all stood Sarah's Place, the diner that had become the town's beating heart. One sunny afternoon, Eli walked in. He paused by the entrance, taking it all in, the smell of fresh coffee, the sound of cheerful chatter, and the sight of a giant mural painted across the back wall. It was a portrait of his mother, smiling, holding a coffee pot, her eyes full of warmth. Beneath it, painted in elegant script, were her words, "Kindness lives longer than we do." Tom came over, handing Eli a cup of hot cocoa. "Your mom changed this town, kid," he said softly. "We'll never forget her." Eli looked up at the mural, tears in his eyes but a smile on his face. "I know," he whispered. "She always said kindness could change hearts. I guess she was right." He took a sip, feeling warmth spread through him, not just from the drink, but from the love that still lingered in that place. And as he walked outside, he noticed something else. Strangers helping each other, neighbors talking kindly, children offering food to the hungry. Sarah's spirit was everywhere. Sarah Thompson may have left this world quietly, but the echo of her kindness still whispered through every corner of Maplewood. Because real kindness doesn't need applause. It doesn't need recognition. It just needs a heart willing to give, even when the world doesn't notice. And maybe that's the greatest lesson she ever left behind. Never wait to appreciate someone's kindness. Because sometimes, we only realize their worth when they're gone. Moral of this story: never overlook the quiet souls who give without expecting anything in return. Sometimes, the kindest hearts go unnoticed, until the silence they leave behind reminds us what true compassion really means. If this story touched your heart, don't let it end here. Take a moment today to thank someone kind in your life, before it's too late. And if you believe the world needs more kindness, hit subscribe to join our growing family here at the Cherished Stories channel, where every story reminds us that even the smallest act of love can change a life forever. And remember, we're not just telling stories. We're changing lives.